Welcome to the Athena Wellness Podcast, the show that invites you to take a seat around the community fire and listen to stories that inspire. I'm your host, Kathy Robinson, author, coach, and founder of Athena Wellness, a company that's dedicated to supporting you on your journey to live more wholeheartedly. Hello, and welcome to episode 126. Thanks so much for joining me for this shortened Wellness Wednesday episode, a little midweek boost to help keep your warrior vibe high. Today I'm joined once again by Christian de la Huerta, who is the author of Awakening the Soul of Power, How to Live Heroically and Set Yourself Free. During this discussion, Christian shares 2 practices to help awaken your soul of power. And now on to the show. I hope you find these practices helpful. Once again, I'm joined by author Christian de la Huerta. Welcome back, Christian.
Delighted to be here, Kathy. Thank you.
You have a number of wonderful practices in your book, Awakening the Soul of Power. Can you suggest a practice for our listeners to help them begin to explore their own empowerment?
Okay, good. Right, so this journey of this transformational journey, this heroic journey, begins with self-awareness. We can't do anything about what we can't see, what we're not aware of. So that's the first step, like becoming aware of why we do the things we do, understanding the patterns, the triggers, that kind of situation. So how do we become more self-aware? And particularly in the area of emotions, right? Which, as we were talking before, we're so conditioned to believe that it's a bad thing, that emotions are bad, that they're weakness, and we so numb them out. We don't feel them. We run away from them. And I know this from personal experience. If you would have asked me 30 years ago what I was feeling, I couldn't tell you because I had no idea what I was feeling. And even being the son of a psychiatrist and even going through psychology school, I didn't get any of that from those settings. So what I did to increase my emotional intelligence, my EQ, I had this is before iPhone, so I had a stopwatch, a timer from Radio Shack, and I had created this grid of emotions. Like I researched emotions, I put them on a grid, and then I put the timeline on the other side. So on the hour, the timer would go off, and so I'd pause whatever I was doing, and I just 2 minutes. It's all it takes, 30 seconds. What am I feeling? Am I feeling that? Am I feeling that? Am I feeling that? Maybe. Let me go see a little bit more about what that means. And that's how I became emotionally more aware of what was going on with me. And then the next step, of course, is developing the courage and the self-discipline to communicate those feelings with courage, because it always takes courage, and compassion and gracefulness in a way that it can be heard, in a way that it can be received. And so that's one practice that would be very helpful. Another practice is just using the breath. Just use the breath. You start feeling tense. You start feeling the beginnings of an argument, and you know which way it's heading. Pause. Right. Take deep breaths. There are swamis in India that have that much control over their body that they can tell the heart to slow down, and it does. Some of them can mimic states that are like indistinguishable from death. Their body is so slowed down and relaxed. Most of us can't do that, probably will never be able to do that. But every single one of us can slow down the breath. Anybody can do that. All it takes is having the presence to do it and making the choice and a little bit of self-discipline. And so what happens when we slow down the breath, the heart has no choice. The heart has to slow down. When the heart slows down, it's like, wow, that hyper defense mode that we go in begins to quiet down. The body begins to relax. The nervous system begins to relax. And then we can drop into ourselves and into our authentic feelings and choose, rather than just do that authentic reaction. You hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you back, which never ends well, ever. We can drop into a place of choice and choose, all right, well, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel right. How do I want to show up? How do I want to respond in a different way? So we get off this merry-go-round of you do this, I do that. You do this, I do that, which never ends well.
I have never heard the practice of the list of emotions. What a great practice. 'Cause I can remember when, and this is probably about 30 years ago too, you don't even have the words when you start to become aware. You don't know. So if somebody says, as you said, what are you feeling? You couldn't say that. But if you have this inventory of sorts, and you can kind of go through and at least start to narrow it down. Oh, that's what that feels like. That's what that is. It's not that you're not feeling it. It's that you can't name it.
Exactly.
And it's a great way of learning to name what it is, because if you can name it, you can create techniques to be able to work with it. So I think that is brilliant. And I've never heard that before. And the other thing, when you talk about the importance of taking a breath, there's so much that people say, well, you've got to be mindful and you need to breathe and you need to pause. But you gave a really good example of why that's important. That pause connects you to your authentic response. And I think when you said that, what popped into mind is the reason why we don't do that is because that's that vulnerable place. And then it takes you right back to what true power really is, which is being able to sit in that and then making a mindful choice of, okay, what do I want to do with this? So that those two practices sound incredibly simple of like, oh, I can name my emotion and I can pause, but there's a good reason it links right back to your 13 paths of how we become stronger and more empowered. Beautiful, wonderful explanations.
Beautiful. I love how you wove all that in and took it to the next level. And we have so many more tools now. There's an app that a friend of mine is launching, and it's already out there. It has a bunch of users already. Even it's in beta phase, and it's called My Soul Vibe, and it uses the voice to help us determine our emotional state. So kind of using cutting edge technology to help us in this process of our own individual process of self-awareness and heroic expression.
Perfect. I love harnessing the power of technology for the good. Yeah. That's a balance of power too, right? It's using the technology for feminine purposes. That's wonderful.
Oh my God, I hadn't even considered it that way, but you're absolutely right. You're using the masculine technology and mathematics and rationality and logic to balance the emotions, which is the watery realm of the feminine. Beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. We've had breakthroughs here today, Christian. This is absolutely wonderful. Again, I can't thank you enough. I will link up everything in the show notes. And I thank you again so much for your time. It's been incredibly insightful, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I've loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I know there are many ways you can spend your time. Thank you for choosing to spend it with me. Until our paths cross again, be kind to yourself and show your warrior spirit some love. If you know anyone who could benefit from today's episode, please pass it on. And many thanks for supporting the show by subscribing and leaving a review. It means a lot, and it helps others find their way to our circle. If you'd like to access the show notes, have a question you'd like addressed on a future episode, or would like a transcript of this episode, visit www.athenawellness.com/podcast. Until next time, be well.